welcome back to the Strathmore Vibes podcast with your host, Michael Kimathi. Welcome back to another session, an interesting session, where we're going to talk about male friendships at work. But with me, I have two eloquent gentlemen with me who can maybe shed some light on this particular topic. I would like for you to introduce yourselves. You're not strangers to our audience, so please take your time to introduce yourself the way you want to introduce yourself. We'll start with you.
Okay, my name is Dr. Jotham Njoroge, and I work here in Strathmore University as a chief of staff.
My name is Macharia. I work here as a lecturer at the School of Humanities and Social Sciences. Yes.
Thank you so much for joining me, gentlemen. This is going to be a very could be intimate session, but we'll just see how it goes, because in essence we're just talking about friendships, which is a topic that I know Dr. Njoroge is familiar with. I don't know about Dr. Macharia, but maybe you can shed some light on what you think a friendship is first of all, so that you can have a foundation.
So friendship to me is about intimacy. It's about closeness. It's about having someone that you can confide in. It's about having someone whose company you always yearn for. Yes.
Want to add anything to it?
Yeah, I mean, I approach things philosophically, and the philosophical definition of friendship, at least according to Aquinas, is a relationship of mutual benevolence with a shared life. So you want what's good for the other, and the other wants what's good for you. So mutual benevolence, but with a shared life, meaning that it's happening within a context of constant interaction, because I can want what's best for the last child who's born in China, and it's good. I want what's best for him or for her, but we don't have a shared life. So there's those two components, wanting the good for the other, but in kind of toe-to-toe, close context. Yeah.
So now let's speak in terms of a professional setting. Do you remember the first time you made a friend at work? Okay, do you even have friends at work? Let me just start with that.
I have plenty.
Plenty?
Plenty. Yeah.
But do you remember the first time you met your first friend, or rather, that first time? And more importantly, what made you think that you can be friends with this person based off of your definitions, which I'm trying to modulate later?
No, I mean, for mine, it was precisely the shared life of being in a common staff room. So my two desk mates were my first friends, because they helped me to just get around, and every time they'd pass by my desk, they'd see what I'm working on. They would give me tips. Every time I pass by their desk, I say, hey, what are you working on? And so there was that precisely mutual benevolence. I remember one of them teaching me how to mark exams. Because I was marking in a way that was very inefficient.
Oh, okay.
And they just saw what I was doing and said, hey, wait a minute, what are you doing? I'm marking, but you don't do it that way, you do it this way. So this person wanted what's best for me. And vice versa. Later on, I'm the one who was giving tips on other things. But it was within the context of the shared life of the staff room.
Yeah. Okay, but in essence, based off of your definition of friendship, what, if you remember that your first friend, what exactly drew you to them in terms of them being your friend?
I'm actually thinking again about the definition of friendship. It has evolved over time.
Exactly.
Because even at this age of social media, we have people we call friends. But are they friends?
Yeah.
So I look at friendship at the workplace, maybe from such a perspective, that the people I sit with are actually my friends, but are they my friends?
They're your friends,
So what I can think about is that from my experience, I've made friends at the workplace, especially at the cafeteria.
Okay.
But as a man, again, the journey to friendship differs, because I have friends whose names I don't know, but actually we are friends.
Is that really possible?
Yes.
Okay.
And we look out for each other in the cafeteria. And we spot, I know this guy works in this school. I know we have a lot in common. But either I can't remember their names, or we will never taken time to know each other's names.
Have you ever asked them their name?
What happens is when you sit, you just start a conversation. You talk about soccer. You talk about politics, you talk about the economy, and somehow you like each other. And next time when you spot the person, that person at another table, you actually go where they are, the conversation continues, and you become close in a way. So until you reach that point of maybe exchanging phone numbers and all that, you may have some relationship over time, but you don't even know it. Yes.
But then based off of that, your two definitions, is that something that you'd expect? Because you see, people usually have this weird thing of saying someone at work is my friend, but we're only merely colleagues.
No, just what Dr. Macharia is saying dates back to Aristotle, who, in the Nicomachean Ethics, which he wrote around 400 BC, he distinguishes 3 kinds of friendship. Friendship of pleasure, where the only good we want for each other is a nice time. We have friendship of utility, where the good we want for each other is some kind of service or the exchange of a good that is useful for one or the other. And then he would give the 3rd category of friendship, which you'd say is the highest category. You'd call it the friendship of nobility. It's based on a noble good, such as virtue, that we both want justice. We both want, we both want love. We both want happiness in its purest form. And depending on what kind of good is being exchanged, is being wanted for the other, that mutual benevolence, then you can know what kind of friendship you have. So it's okay to have your mechanic as your friend, so long as he's your mechanic. You pay him money for him to fix your car, but the moment your mechanic says, hey, I'm thinking of going into farming, you say, I wish you all the best, and that's it. And that's the end of the friendship, because there's no longer mutual benevolence with respect to fixing cars. So it makes perfect sense. You can be somewhere in a cafeteria and you catch up on the latest football matches and the scores, and it's a relationship of pleasure.
But is that the same friendship that you have outside of work? So, for example, your friends outside of work, the way you described it, you also have the same interaction where you don't know their name, or you just meet once or twice a week to just catch up, talk about family. I don't know.
I would say it differs. And one thing that comes to my mind is that I used to work elsewhere before I came to Strathmore. And I had friends, some people I would define as close friends. But when I came to Strathmore, over time, I don't think we have some of them, we haven't even spoken for about 5 years or so. But we are friends. But outside, I have made friends that we've lasted with that kind of friendship for over decades. So a fella who even relocated to the US, but you're still very close. So I tend to think there is that kind of transaction, and those friends that you make because you've met and you actually become friends, but that would be for a limited duration. As long as you are doing what you are doing together. So maybe, and most workplace friendship are of that nature. But then some of them progress to the next level. That even when you leave that workplace, just the way I had friends in school, very close friends at the university, you no longer interact. But some of them, you've maintained those ties. So I think what I would call the real friendship is that one that goes beyond even the circumstances that you find yourself in.
The context of work.
The context,
But maybe I can now go deeper into this topic. Sometimes people usually say that friendships are a place for us as human beings to associate with each other, even on a deeper level. See, when you say that us as men, we can sit down and talk about football, talk about politics, anything and everything. Those seem to be quote-unquote surface level kind of interactions. Well, not so normal words, but assuming people say that. Is it possible for this work-based friendships to go deeper in as far as even having that sense of vulnerability? And if so, why is it that some of us as men don't see that as a possibility where we can be vulnerable at work with our colleagues, with our male friends?
I think we have to distinguish between work and life outside of work in terms of a structured context and a non-structured context. This is actually a categorization given by William Rollins, who's been studying friendship since 1975. I don't know when Dr. Macharia was born, but I definitely wasn't in the picture.
Much later.
75. And a structured context is a place where you're there because you have to be, not because you want to be. And you're normally there because of a certain competence. And so to show vulnerability, to show weakness, to show I can be hurt, because that's what vulnerable means, to ability to be hurt. I can be hurt in this way. It's not the kind of thing you want to put in a context where you're there precisely because of what you can do, not what you can't do. You are hired because of a certain skill set you had. And so this is what makes it difficult to be vulnerable in the workplace, because it's a context where your existence there is based not on your vulnerability, but on your competence. Nevertheless, and this is why it's important to distinguish the other context, outside of work, after work, in the cafeteria, on the weekend, meeting your friend at Karura.
Yeah.
You're not there because you have to be, it's because you want to be. It's now a space where there's a more three-dimensional view of you as a person, including your soft underbelly. You can say, as they say of the dragons of old, the soft underbelly is where, when unguarded, you could pierce them with a lance. And yes, and that's a place. And to some extent, even physiologically, that's what a hug is.
Yeah.
When you hug someone, you are mutually exposing each other to the most vulnerable parts of your body, which is where your heart is. And anyone who strikes a blow there, you know.
I've never said that in my life.
and so, and that's why we don't give each other hugs in the workplace, because you give each other fist bumps, because your fist is your tool of work. And so there's that kind of the need to distinguish the contexts. A workplace is a structured context of competency. And outside of work is now where the intimacy can happen, because that's where you can be vulnerable.
Maybe I can just piggyback on that, Dr. Macharia. The aspect of you're in a workplace because of the skill set that you have. Your friendships could be based on the fact that each of you, rather all of you, have various skill sets. What about aspects when you have to intertwine work and friendship? So, for example, this competition at work where there's someone who you both want to get this particular promotion, this particular job, or even hierarchy. Maybe you sit down at the same table with someone who's like your boss or the manager or director of a department, but you still have to balance the fact that you can talk about football and politics and still have the friendship that you refer to. Is that a difficult thing? How have you ever tackled that?
Maybe as a man, we normally have a kind of a flat, maybe a level way of dealing with things. I'll still deal with my boss, like my friend. And the distance that used to be there sometimes back, I don't know whether it's because of being at Strathmore, but the distance is usually very, very minimal. The VC, you meet the Vice Chancellor here, you have a meal, you share all manner of jokes, you talk about soccer, you do all that kind of thing. You're doing your work and I'm doing my work. So I do not think friendship is likely to be strained, especially in my context, by maybe your status or anything like that. Some of my friends here are even students. There are some students that I've got some very close friendship with. Some students who even escort me home in the evening so that you can have time to talk. There are students who've taken me up to Nyao Stadium as my way home. So level mostly does not. And if I had a very close friend, and the friend becomes maybe even the chairman or the council of the university, I don't think our friendship will change based on that. Yes.
Like you see, you prefix it as a man.
Men have boxes. You heard about that?
You've heard that, yes. The story of the
so
box.
there will be now the box of friendship and the box of work, and they don't touch. Yes. So when we meet for a meal or to have fun, we do that. And when we want to work, we work. Yes.
Interesting.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything you'd want to add on to that, or do you agree?
No, I mean, I agree with that. And I think, again, the context really matters. At Strathmore, the relationships are not as hierarchical as in other institutions that you hear about. And I think it has its advantages, because you're in an educational context where everyone should be an educator. And I've learned a lot from my students. I mean, my students think that I teach them, but I'm also learning a lot from them. But that can only happen precisely when you can say the hierarchy isn't as tall a structure as you find in other places, like in the military. So I think it's what Dr. Macharia says is beautiful.
And now that you have the context, again, you have to contextualize it as far as workplace friendship. Right? Has there ever come a moment or time in which someone who's your workplace friend, right, has shown up for you in a difficult time? And importantly, I don't know if you can share what exactly happened or how they showed up for you at that particular moment.
Yes, enough times. Maybe we've formed some friendship here and has gone beyond working together. So all the time you find yourself maybe going to celebrate a friend who got a new baby. Sometimes they have some issues that need help, some social issues, maybe their parents are unwell. You find yourself going to visit them. Sometimes we have even tried to think about who their common friends are. It has even happened to me. Sometimes I had someone who was unwell at home. My friends here organized themselves and they surprised me. They told me, excuse me, we are coming to your place. Yes. So it has always sometimes gone beyond the workplace. And sometimes I know I've made some friendships that will even outlive my work or my presence at Strathmore. Even when I will be long gone, there are some friends you'll still be connecting with.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is that the same for you, Dr. Njoroge?
Yeah, I think it has always been in moments of bereavement that I've seen people showing up for me or me showing up for people in a big way. And it's again, and this is why I think, just taking us back to what you're talking about, vulnerability, there are certain things that, yes, do knock the wind totally out of you.
Yeah.
No matter how competent or strong you are. We recognize the fact that you are a human being with relationships that make you the kind of person you are. And many of those relationships exist outside of the university. So if one of them is compromised in one way or another, it will affect you. We just see the way you're walking, you're not smiling as you usually do. And it's precisely those moments when somebody comes and says, is everything okay?
Yeah.
I've noticed, you're not your usual self. Those are the moments that stand out most for me. The people who've noticed that I'm not my usual self, and it's precisely because it's something that has happened outside the workplace.
Then just to follow up with that, when people do notice that, we've talked about some of the topics that us as men generally talk about, because the truth is, some of those topics we can talk about them even in a matatu, with the driver, conductor, with anyone. But some of the things that, if you were to go deeper, for example, if we talk about when you're stressed, maybe if you have burnout, usually is it easy if we talk about these things with those friendships that you have, or you also have to limit them based off the fact, skill set, maybe they're not because you're not there because you want to, or because of what you guys are doing at work. You guys ever had such periods where you can talk about some of these things like burnout, stress, etc., etc.?
It depends on who I'm talking to. Again, I think men are very functional, and so just like your plumber won't fix your carpentry issues.
Yeah.
So I know if I have this issue, I'll go to this person because they're the ones that can fix it. And I think that's a thing that men tend to have relationships that look for utility. That the nobility, you can say, comes precisely from the utility.
Yeah.
It's founded on it, that I'm going to somebody who I'm not just going to open up so that somebody can hear me. It's also so that they can give me a way out. Or just help me solve this. And I think it's because friendship, by definition, by structure, happens around activities. Yeah. For women, talking is an activity. And so it's easier to become friends with women, because for them, talking is an activity. For men, talking is not an activity. It's something you do as you're doing some other activity. We are trying to plan for our retirement. We have to talk. But the issue is, how can we fix this retirement issue? Or how can we fix this problem? So we are doing stuff and we talk around it. But I think women find it much easier to just talk.
But then follow up with that. See, whether they find it easier to just talk. When you're talking with your fellow man, with that friendship that you have, with that friend that you have, do you feel as if they create that environment? I might see the same thing where it's contextual.
I would say, as Dr. Jotham says, that there's a lot of utility, and you approach that friend who serves that purpose that you have. So once you do that, you feel kind of relieved, and as if your problem has been handled well because you took it to the right person. And that kind of mutuality happens even outside work. If my kids have a birthday, there are some families I invite for birthdays, but they're not the same families you invite when you have another function. So it's just a kind of thing, and you actually benefit, and they also benefit based on that need.
Okay, then I think I want to follow up with something that I asked earlier, right? Where I asked you about your friends is someone who's your colleague, and then or more importantly, maybe the directors or bosses. Let's say you start with someone who's at the same level, right? What happens when they get to a level that they get a promotion where they're now director, manager, and you're still not at that level? Do you still maintain the same level of interaction, or does it still change? You just have to clarify on that first.
Yes, as I said, we have boxes. So if you are my friend, that box for friendship remains, and then the box for work remains. So it happens all the time that the same people who become your bosses are the same people you are even meeting outside because of the functions that they are attending and all that. So that goes.
So is that the same?
Well, yeah, I think again, I would like to put it in a psychological more than philosophical context, framing rather. And again, William Rawlins talks about the tension, the dialectical tension between dependence and independence. That yes, you want the best for your friend, and suddenly your friend gets this super job in the US. And the way men tend to deal with that is, go for it. That you be as independent as you can be. That men want independence for each other. You go out there. But then that means you can't be there for me when I need some support or that kind of thing, or you'll support from far. And what William Rawlins says is that women tend to resolve that tension between independence and dependence with interdependence. And I think you see it when students are coming in at the security check, that if it's two guys coming in, one with a bag, the other without, the guy who will be checked first without the bag will go past the security check and keep walking. He'll slow down, but he'll keep walking.
He'll keep walking,
while his body is being checked then a bit longer. He'll catch up. He'll catch up. But for the girls, it sometimes cause a traffic jam there because they get checked and they take 2 steps and wait for their friend. And they will not move until their friend has been cleared. And so they walk together. It's interdependence rather than you go ahead, I'll catch up. I have the strength within me to get to where you are. Someday I'll catch up. But it's true, especially now in an age of so much competition, even financially. When you have that friend, that friend has really made it, and the guy comes to work in a new car, and you're still driving your old car, and it can create a kind of tension. But I think, as Dr. Macharia is saying, maybe men have a greater ability to pigeonhole things and to say that I'm on my professional journey and this is what it's bringing me. You're in your profession. And by the way, you may have a better car, but I have a better house.
True.
So we're still equal,
So, but let me ask, let me just go back to what you just mentioned earlier. When you know your friend, there's something that they have done, or maybe there's a marker they have pushed, something you've done that, or rather you guys do that makes you friends. What are some, maybe it's the banter you have, maybe it's the kind of jokes that you guys have with each other. Are there markers that you guys have to know who your actual friend is at the workplace?
I'd say people say opposites attract, but in terms of friendship, in my case, is an issue of birds of a feather flocking together. Now, sometimes I meet a friend and we strike off very well. But then over time, you keep drifting apart. It's because you are realizing, and it's not something that a decision you've made, but somehow things just keep you together or away. So I tend to think is, you find that you have friendship with the people who reason the way you do. They like what you like. Maybe you have kind of an interest, they have the same interest. That's what I would think keeps people together.
Is that the same?
For me, it's what I call the beer test.
Let's go. Okay.
For me, it's a beer test. The person who will invite me for a beer because of something great that has happened in my life.
In your life.
So let's say, it doesn't have to be a beer, but somebody who actually celebrates me.
Okay.
That's a litmus test. of this is a true friend, that they hear that, hey, Jotham got a promotion, and hey, we have to celebrate this. And I do the same for my friends. When something important happens in their life, I say, hey, this can't go by. We can't just let this pass. Let's meet this place. It's on me. I'll take you out and let's just have a good time. So I think it's one of those things that really builds chemistry between people. When you're not just there when things are bad. Because you'd have to be a pretty mean fellow not to show up when other people are down. I mean, even animals do it. Even animals do it. But animals don't celebrate each other.
Yes.
They really don't.
The neighbor's dog has gotten a puppy, and the other dog does, hey, let's have a baby shower. No,
That's a good one.
It's one dog is being attacked and the other dogs come and show up, because it's a territorial thing. So I think that for me is a real litmus test for friendship. Who's there to celebrate with you your big wins in life, even the small wins or any win, So beer, coffee, or anything.
Interesting. maybe just for my listeners, maybe they'd want to know something from the two doctors that I have here. What's the funniest story you have with any of your male friends at work? It has to be. I'm putting that into that context because I'm sure you can talk to me about other friends, but here in the workplace, what's the funniest story you can give? At least once too.
Funny, but
I wouldn't call it funny.
Okay, call it whatever. Use the whatever adjective you want.
Most probably the most interesting.
Okay.
Dr. Jotham says, I have a friend here that we really enjoy things together. We go sometimes for a drink. We don't drink much. Just 2 bottles. But there's something, and I've actually told another friend that there's something that makes anything you take with these guys taste better. And then last year and this year, we have had a chance to travel abroad together. So we spend all the time together and all that. And I don't think I have had such kind of a visit to a foreign country that I've enjoyed more than I did with this guy. Yes, and we really, really enjoyed. Yes.
Interesting.
Maybe that's what we got.
Perfect. What about you, Dr.?
I'm really trying to think, and maybe it's making me realize that some of my friendships could be very structured. Funny thing I would say maybe is there's one of these staff excursions we had. And there's this guy whose physical appearance is like, don't touch. This guy doesn't smile. He's always a serious guy. And there, precisely in the non-structured context of a hike, I just saw a different person and so much more approachable. And we had such a good time. It was, and the thing was, comparatively, in those hikes, there's the Team Subaru.
Team Subaru, yes.
The guys who go and so we were on completely opposite teams except for some places where everyone had to cross together. We had to wait for the other guys to show up. I'm already revealing which team I was in.
I already know.
And it was so much fun, and that's why I'm saying in the workplace, if someone is slowing you down in the workplace, it's cause for conflict. But outside there, I saw this person in a way that even him slowing us down was now a cause of amusement. And we had such a good time. And when we came back to the university, our relationship totally changed.
Okay. Interesting. Anyway, gentlemen, I think I need to wind up, but in your final remarks, what would you advise anyone who wants to have a friend at the workplace? What are the things that you'd advise them to go to look at and observe before they actually make a friend? What should they look forward to?
For me, I think if someone doesn't have a friend at the workplace, they really need to have a friend. And we need those friends, especially as men, because for us it doesn't come so naturally. And we need to have someone that we can confide in, someone that maybe in this era when you're talking about mental health all the time, that is someone who can also help us go through or navigate the hard life or the hardships that we're going through at work. So we need these friends, and we need friends who benefit us and people we can also benefit. So there is that kind of utility. So, and it's something that we need to be deliberate about. Yes, having a friend at the workplace.
I'd say if you want to have a friend in the workplace, take them out of the workplace.
Yes.
That, just find that person who shares a mutual interest, a mutual curiosity outside of the workplace. And this is what has really cemented some of my friendships with my colleagues and my students. It's the things we've done outside. There's just a very quick story. There's a student who never used to say anything to me in class.
Yes.
Until I organized a visit to an art gallery not far from here. And that was a totally different person, because I realized we both love art. I thought I was I was imposing my interests on the students and taking them to an art gallery as an artist myself. And lo and behold, there's this person who thought they were a weirdo because they like a certain kind of art. And they saw, wait a minute, Sir also likes this kind of art. And whoa, did we started talking then. So that's the thing, that a lot of it's we need to be very aware of this distinction between the structured and unstructured context. And I think work is a very structured context. And the moment you take somebody outside, you break that structure, and then you bring them back in, you relate in a very different way.
Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining me this morning. Thank you so much for affording me so much of your time. Ladies and gentlemen, that was a topic on male friendships at the workplace on the Strathmore podcast. See you on the next one.
Thank you.
Thank you.